At the start of this video, I want to make something very clear. This video is going to be very long. I'm going to talk slower versus my other videos because it's extremely important for me to get the message out to you guys. I will be 100% serious during the entirety of this video. There will be no jokes made. I'm being 100% honest and truthful to my audience. I mentioned in previous videos, almost every single person in my family has been divorced multiple times. I believe there has been some kind of a generational curse that has been placed on my family. It has completely destroyed the lives of everybody around me. I was abandoned by my father multiple times. In fact, I was even abandoned by my mother. I grew up without either parents. I was raised alone by my grandmother. She raised me until I was roughly 12 and a half years old. Then I actually moved to Canada with my stepmother's sister. And just 2 years after I moved to Canada, I was kicked out and once again abandoned by my dad and my stepmom due to child support issues. Ever since I was 15 years old, I've been pretty much living all alone. Life has been extremely difficult. I was temporarily homeless. I lacked financial supports as a minor from both of my parents. So I had to resort to working various part-time jobs to get myself through high school. I was a dishwasher at a restaurant for a couple of years. I had to eat the customers' leftovers on the plates every single night just so that I don't starve to death. I was forced to be circumcised by my dad at the age of 16. I was nearly sold to the black market into slavery at the age of 4. I've had 3 suicide attempts. My dad actually once attempted to kill me. I actually had to run to a nearby shelter in order to seek assistance so I wouldn't be killed. Back when I was working at a gas station many years ago, in order to save up money, I was only getting paid the minimum wage. I was barely getting by. However, due to my father's gambling addiction, he actually threatened to kill me multiple times. He forced me to withdraw all of my savings from my bank account multiple times, just to lose all of it at the casino within a couple hours' time. So how did my life get to this point? Okay, let's rewind the clock all the way back to the late 1980s. So my mom, her first marriage was in the year of 1981. Unfortunately, she filed for divorce in 1989. At the time, my sister was just 7 years old. You see, China's divorce rate only skyrocketed recently. Up until 1980, China's divorce rate was 2%. Even though it was always legal under the laws of People's Republic of China. However, there's a massive stigma. People just weren't allowed to get divorced because if you do, everybody in society will shame and humiliate you. So for the longest time, divorce was really not a thing. And when my mama first filed for divorce in 1989, everybody shamed and humiliated her. Everybody in her family was shamed and humiliated, including my sister. It was also during that time period early on. My older half-sister, she had multiple suicide attempts. And she also attempted to run away from home. She ended up dropping out of school. And she never went back to school. She's been in several abusive relationships. And she's also had 2 failed marriages, multiple abortions. And just the past September, she forced her second ex-husband into suicide. This is what divorce does to a family. There's nothing funny about this. So after my mom divorced in 89, then she met my dad in the year of 1991. And for some reason, I don't know what got into her head because my dad is an absolute monster. I'm talking about Hitler, Mussolini, Joseph Stalin evil. But I don't know, maybe he had a charming personality when he was younger. I was told that before my mom, my dad had multiple girlfriends. He would sneak them back into his dad's house. Obviously, this is way back in the 1980s, right? And having sex before marriage was strictly forbidden. He would actually bring these women back home. He would sneak them through the back window. And after he's done with the business, he would help these women to jump over the rear window to help them escape. I can never understand this about women. They put all the nice guys in friend zone. And for some reason, they're always attracted to this kind of man. And for some reason, my dad, he must have had a thing for a single mom, even though back then this was an absolute taboo. Not just divorce, that, dating a single mom was never, ever okay. But my dad, he ended up proposing to my mom in the year of 1991, and I was born the following year. However, my mama would once again file for divorce while I was just a baby. So I grew up without either parents. And obviously, for the second divorce, I don't blame my mom at all. In fact, it was her fault. She should have never chosen my dad to get married in the first place. My dad's habits from his younger days, sleeping women back to his parents' house in order to have sex with them, and then sneaking these women out through the back window. So So this kind of practice just continued on into his marriage. And my dad would go on to cheat on my mom with multiple women, including with my stepmom. And that was the main reason for her divorce. And once again, all the red flags were there. My hometown is a fairly small city in China. However, I did not grow up in the city. I grew up in a tiny little subdivision of 30,000 people. So 30,000 for Chinese standard, that is as small as it gets. So it's one of those places where everybody knows everybody. And even the tiniest amount of information, it gets gossiped, it gets passed around. So whatever happens in your family, the next thing you know, everybody in the subdivision knows it. And I will show you guys my hometown when I return to China. So shortly after my mom's divorce in roughly 93, 94, so she quickly got married again in either 94 or 95. That was her third marriage. And obviously because, she was busy with her third husband, so she couldn't take care of me. And my dad at the time, he was also dating my stepmom, so none of them wanted me. So I was handed to my grandmother. She's the person who raised me all on her own. And life was extremely difficult growing up. For me, for my cousin who was also abandoned by both of her parents. We're both raised together by my grandmother. And I lost her 2 years ago. I couldn't fly back to China to say goodbye to her due to the COVID lockdowns. It was one of the most difficult moments of my life. And fast forward a couple of years, in the year of 1996, my mom's third marriage would also fall apart. And during this time, she was busy dealing with her third divorce, filing all the paperwork, getting lawyers, all kinds of crazy stuff. And during this time, my dad, he will marry my stepmom, and they will give birth to my half-sister, who was 4 years younger than me, in the summer of 1996. And during this time, because my mom was so busy with her third divorce, and my dad, he just had a second child with my stepmom. It was quite a chaotic time, and none of them wanted to take care of me. None of them wanted to pay child support to my grandmother. So what actually ended up happening was that my dad actually put me on a wait list for the black market. I was put on the wait list to be sold to some rural poor villager in China. One of those leftover men that cannot find a woman, that cannot get married or have children. So I was put on the wait list to be sold to some rural farmer in southern China. So him and my stepmom, they actually put me on a train. And they traveled through multiple provinces. And I was sent to a distant relative. So this happened when I was 4 years old. And this distant relative, I was abused by her for an entire year. I was nearly starved into death. I had almost nothing to eat. And because she was also extremely poor, and with the little money they made, and she gave all the food that she can afford to buy to her own daughter. So from when I was 4 to 5 years old, I suffered from extreme malnutrition. One of the reasons why I never let my hair grow out is because I would say probably a quarter of my hair is already gray. I still vividly remember, going to kindergarten, going to school back in China. I already had gray hairs everywhere. And during that 1 year period, due to the severe malnutrition, I will also lose several of my teeth, and many of my teeth just simply never grew back. As you can see here, I'm missing quite a few teeth down there. And also during that 1 year period, when I was finally brought back much later on, my skin was basically just coming off everywhere. I don't know what the condition is called. For example, many of you guys have experienced this. If you go to the beach, if you stay in the water, or if you go to the swimming pool for too long, all of your skin becomes extremely loose and soft. So my skin was peeling off constantly. That happened for many, many years. I kept on shedding skin, and growing up, I was like a tiny little skeleton. So how was I brought back to my hometown? So eventually, when my mom was finally done with all the paperwork for her third divorce, so she completely ignored me for a year, and she starts contacting my dad, and she's asking, so where the hell is our son? It was actually through the negotiations of my grandmother. It was through her sheer effort and willpower, because she realized that something was wrong. Because I guess originally my dad and my stepmom, and they made up some BS story to fool them. They said that it's a temporary family visit. So when my mom and grandmother finally realized something was wrong, I think they threatened to murder my dad and my stepmom. So the truth finally came out. And my dad and my uncle, my grandmother, they all hopped on a train. They traveled for over 1,000 kilometers to pick me up, ending my entire year of abuse. So I would start kindergarten in my hometown at the age of 5. So this was 1997. I went to kindergarten for 2 years. So while I was going to kindergarten and also just going to primary school, because I grew up in a town of 30,000 people, right? Everybody knew everybody. And the fact that my mom has already been divorced 3 times, everybody knows that. That was some kind of, Guinness World Record. Because back then, even one divorce was almost unheard of. The fact that my mom was divorced 3 times, and the fact that I'm growing up without either parents. I was raised, by my grandmother. Everybody made fun of me. I was beat up regularly. Everybody made fun of me almost every single day. People out there saying that, oh, dude, your mom is a dirty little skanky whore. Oh, dude, I heard your mom went on a date with, the mechanic last night. I heard that she sucks a really good. They'll say that, oh, dude, I heard the basketball coach your mom right up last night. Okay? See, people don't realize this kind of stuff. This is what happens when you don't have family. I don't think people realize the severe consequences of what this does to your child while you're growing up. And I believe this is the #1 issue in the Black community. You guys have no idea how much torture, how much humiliation, how much I got beaten up while I was growing up. In fact, there's a picture, okay? This happened when I was just 8 years old. I was brutally beaten up. I was pushed onto a piece of concrete by 2 other guys at the same time. And this has left a permanent scar. I had to get multiple stitches. I nearly died at the hospital. My head was cracked, wide open. There was blood pouring out everywhere. Every single day, I was teased just like that. Oh, dude, you're a loser. You're an orphan. Where's your dad? Oh, your mom is a skanking whore. People will say things like, oh, dude, maybe if I pay your mama $200, she will suck my too. Every single day I had to deal with that growing up. I had nobody to help me. So then fast forward a few years. So back in 1998, it was my stepmother. She applied for immigration to Canada. And obviously, when she applied for immigration, she would take my dad and my half-sister to Canada. So they arrived to Canada in 2002. And I guess they had a very long and serious discussion with my mom. And in the end, the decision they agreed on was that, the West would be a much better place to grow up. It would be a much better environment versus growing up in China. It would be less competitive, and I have better chance for a brighter future if I was brought up in the West. So my mama ended up agreeing to my dad and my stepmom. In the spring of 2005, I was brought to Canada by my stepmom's half-sister. I know, my family is all very, very crazy. All of these half-siblings are all due to the results of divorces. However, just 2 years after arriving in Canada, my dad, my stepmom, and my biological mother, they ran into disputes with child support. And because my mom would not send any more money to my dad and my stepmom, so they kicked me out of their home, and I became temporarily homeless. At the very least, my mom, she agreed to send me $500 Canadian. This was back in 2007, just so that I don't have to starve. And I went all over town to look for a place to live, because obviously there's no way for me to, keep going to school, to keep showing up to my classes if I was going to be homeless. So I went everywhere, and I finally found a place that was cheap enough for me to survive. And the rent was $320 Canadian a month. Keep in mind, this was, back in 2007. However, with my mom only giving me $500 a month, that was not enough to survive. So I picked up a job washing dishes. And the only way for me to save enough money so I don't have to starve was to eat the customers' leftovers every single night. It was a fine dining restaurant. So sometimes when a finished plate of rack and lamb comes back, I would basically, take some leftover bread and I would dip it in the lamb sauce and I would start to chew on the lamb bones or whatever I could find, anything that was sent back. A half plate of salad, any kind of soup, any kind of chewed up tough steak. I ate everything. I did that all throughout the remainder of my high school because I didn't have enough money to survive on my own. And there was not enough help from either one of my parents. And the Christmas of 2007, I actually, I called my dad and my stepmom. I told them I really don't want to be alone for this holiday because at the house I was renting, everybody had left. Everybody went to see their families for Christmas. And I was completely alone in this house I was renting. So I said that I want to come back and see you guys. And my dad, he told me to go fuck myself. So it was Christmas 2007. I had my first suicide attempt. I remember there was a extremely heavy snowfall. Unfortunately, I can't share the details, or this video would get demonetized and age restricted. It was one of the darkest moments of my life. And obviously, this significantly impacted my mental health. and also my performance at school. It was a miracle, and I was able to graduate with pretty solid grades overall. I was the black sheep. I was blamed by my dad and my mom and my stepmother every single day. They were all telling me that I was a failure because I could not achieve a straight A grades in school, that I could not get into a top tier university, that I couldn't get into an Ivy League school. So when I was in grade 10, that's when I first moved out on my own. My grades really suffered. I think I probably averaged in the low 70s. But in grade 11, once I adapted, to this kind of a style of living, of going to wash dishes after school every single day, and eating the leftovers in order to survive, my grades actually improved significantly. So in grade 11, I actually got an 85% average in high school. And in grade 12, I averaged 77%. But things were definitely rough, but I was accepted into Carleton University and McMaster University. However, due to my extreme depression, I decided to not go to university. I decided to temporarily decline both offers. And it was really during this time period, my weight completely ballooned out of control. As you can see in this picture, this is roughly in 2011, so this is a year after graduating from high school. I was in a very dark place. I was extremely depressed, and my weight ballooned to 242 pounds. And this is also the reason why, there's a huge obesity epidemic in the Black American community, right? 40% of Black men are obese, and 58% of Black women are obese. Do you guys want to know why? It's very obvious, right? 72% of Black children in America are being born out of wedlock. 64% are being raised without a father figure. This is what the destruction of the nuclear family does to their children. When you're extremely depressed, when you have nobody to talk to, the only thing you have for comfort is to look for food. So I was pretty much addicted to junk food every single day. I stuffed myself with Oreos, with Doritos, with cream cheese bagels, with Boston cream donuts, with twice the deal pizza. I was drinking 2-liter Pepsi almost every single day. And my body completely deteriorated. And when I was really struggling, I had nobody to talk to. And the real main reason why my grades dropped by 8 percentage points from 85% average to 77%. Also, the main reason why I couldn't go to university right after high school was because I was forced to be circumcised by my dad. So I had shared this in a previous video before, so I'll give a couple more details. First of all, there's nothing wrong with my body. There's nothing wrong with my genitals, with my penis. Everything was absolutely fine. But my dad wanted to do this because he was a narcissist and he wanted to abuse me. So he took me to a local Chinese doctor. This was in London, Ontario. And the Chinese doctor looked at me. He told my dad that everything was fine. I did not need a circumcision or any kind of procedure. But this absolutely enraged him. So he actually said that, you know what, you're going to go back to China and you have to get circumcised, or I'm going to kill you. That's what he actually told me. So I flew back to China to see my mom, and I was 100% against this procedure. And somehow my dad just talked to my mom on the phone, and I don't know what the hell got into my mom's head, but my mom just went right into it. I think this is the huge reason why she's had 6 divorces. Women are so easily manipulated by men. You have to stop using your emotions and you have to start using logic, okay? You gotta think about everything. Every decision you make in life has consequences, okay? So I was taken to a hospital in Changchun, and unfortunately the procedure was semi-botched. So this was right before I turned 17. So I had to go back to a local clinic every single day. At one point I was urinating blood. The pain was unimaginable. I had to get multiple stitches, and the stitches had to be changed every single day because they turned red every single day. Anytime, if I just had to go for number 2 at the toilet, every time I had to bend down and push, and the stitches will pop open, and there will be blood spattered everywhere. And the hospital was too far, so I had to visit a local clinic almost every single day. I probably went there every single day for the next 2 weeks for checkups, before my wound finally healed. Unfortunately, due to the fact that this procedure was semi-botched, okay, so this has left a permanent scar on the left side of my penis. I would never make a joke about anything like this, and I still have nightmares to this day. I've never been able to fully recover from this, and it was also during this time period at my second suicide attempt. But, I still managed to pull myself through, even though my grades dropped by 8 percentage points, I still managed to graduate to high school. I still at least got 77% average in grade 12. But, my depression has ran so deep, there was no way I could go on to accept my offer to go to university in the fall. I would end up finding a minimum wage job at the gas station. And at the time, the minimum wage in Canada was only $10 Canadian per hour. That's $7.50 US. And obviously, I could not really save up any money. After 1 year, I managed to save up $1,500 Canadian. Then my dad came to me. He threatened to kill me once again if I did not withdraw all of my money. And at the time, there was a limit on my account. I could only withdraw $500 at a time. So I have to withdraw 3 times over the course of 3 days. He took all of my $1,500 of savings. That was 1 year worth of savings from working at a minimum wage job at a gas station. He took it all to the casino. He lost it within 12 hours. In the end, under severe pressure from my mom and my dad, I ended up going to school. I ended up going to Carleton University back in 2012. But my depression ran so deep that there was no way I could follow through with my studies. So I dropped out after just a semester. And because of this, I got into huge arguments with my dad and my mom. And basically, my dad told me to go fucking die. I'm gonna kill you, you piece of shit. And he just slammed the phone. And from that point on, I did not talk to him for the next 4 years. So at this point, I was living in Ottawa, just completely on my own. Then, almost 4 years later, I get a message from my mom. She keeps saying that, your dad is sorry. He said he apologizes for everything he's done to you. He apologizes for all of your sufferings. He wants to make things okay with you again. And he's got this job lined up for you. He said that for you to save money, you can temporarily stay with him at his house. He will cover the cost of living and everything so you can save up money. And obviously, I knew all of this was bullshit. I know my dad the inside out. I know him too well. But my mom would just keep harassing me. She keeps saying, go see your dad, go call your dad, go come and see him. So this went on for roughly probably 5 to 6 months. And I finally agreed to my mom. I said, okay, I'll go meet up with my dad. So I actually quit my job in Ottawa. I ended up leaving my apartment. I packed up everything. I went to see my dad. And at this point, I had already lost a lot of weight. And I was scheduled to run the Toronto Marathon just 2 days after meeting my dad. I talked to him on the phone previously. I said, I'm going to come down, I'm going to meet you, and we're going to go to Toronto all together, and I'm going to run the Toronto Marathon. And afterwards, we can have some dinner to celebrate. That was going to be my 3rd marathon. Unfortunately, when I went to my dad's house, he attempted to kill me once again. See, this is the thing I don't understand. What is wrong with modern women? How can you be this stupid? At this point, there's nothing funny about this. How can you keep falling for all these stupid tricks by these insane, violent, rageful men? Okay? Why do you keep falling for guys like this? Why do you keep falling for all of their lies? Going in, I kind of knew something was off about this whole thing, but I did not think that was gonna happen. But right in front of my dad's house, there's actually a woman's shelter. When my dad attempted to kill me, I ran to this woman's shelter. I banged on the door. I said, please let me in. I'm going to get murdered. And so the lady, she opened the door, and I filled out some forms. I said, I need to get the hell out of here. And I need to somehow get to the start line of the Toronto Marathon. I said, despite everything that has happened, okay, I still want to run my race. And I was lucky enough to get in touch with my high school math teacher. And he actually went and picked me up. And despite everything that happened, I still went to downtown Toronto, and I didn't have any sleep for 2 nights. My eyes were completely red and bloodshot. I still ran the Toronto Marathon, and that was my 3rd marathon. Much slower than I anticipated, obviously, because, I was completely traumatized. I had no sleep, but I still finished the race. Once again, I couldn't bring myself to come back to school, so I just went back to the grocery store, and I just kept on working. Then my mom would contact me again. She would tell me, oh, your dad really wants to see you. He's really sorry this time. Obviously, I ignored her for probably a year. But once again, she would keep bugging me every single day. This is the part I can never understand about a woman's brain. And I finally agreed. I said, okay, I'll go talk to him. But I'm not going to quit my job. I'm not going to leave my apartment because I don't know what the hell is going to happen. I got to talk to him on the phone multiple times then to see what he's up. So my dad, he keeps on saying, because, you're Chinese, the Asian culture, whatever happens, you should come back to school because, or you'll be a disgrace to your family, or you'll be a disgrace to Chinese people. You're only a high school graduate. You don't have any kind of education. And he told me that, maybe university is too much. How about just going to college for 2 years? and he offered to actually pay for half of my tuition and half of my living expense. Because I knew at this point, I was already 25. I was gonna be turning 26 if I decided to come back to school, and I told him how expensive it was going to be. And I said, right now I'm debt free, even though I'm not making much money, but at least I'm not completely broke. And but if I go back to school, I have to take on so much debt. That's gonna be so much pressure. And he actually promised me. He said, don't worry, son, I got your back this time. I'll pay for half of everything. And if you work a part-time job, if you still work 20 hours a week, you can get by. So in the fall of 2017, I applied to go back to school. I went to college. I went to Georgian College from 2018 to 2020. I actually graduated with a 90.2% average. I was the best student in the graduating class. But unfortunately, by the time I graduated college, I was already drowning in debt. You see, my dad, even though he promised to pay for half of everything, and when I called him, it's time for me to pay for my tuition, and he once again screamed over the phone. He told me to myself. He said that he's going to kill me. He said that, I'm trying to threaten him. He said that I'm trying to manipulate him because the only reason why I contacted him was so that I can get some money, so I can scam him out of his wallet, out of his bank account. So I ended up coming back to school with zero financial support. And the only reason why I'm not homeless at this point, at the very least I can say this much, is that it's thanks to my mom. When my dad just completely went back to his old ways, when he just completely went nuts and threatened to kill me again, my mom offered to step in. She said that, I'll cover as much as I can. And that's how I can survive 2 years of college and 4 years of university. I'm doing this all because of parental pressure. Despite everything that has happened, I still chose to come back to college, to come back to do university, so I wouldn't be a disgrace to my Asian culture and to my Asian family. It's been extremely rough, but at least I'll be graduating before the end of the year. I just need to take 2 more online classes. And for those of you guys who are wondering the fact that, I'm 31 years old, why am I still alone at this age? How come I haven't been on a single date? Well, I think I've given you guys all the reasons in the world. And I still don't understand how so many people could do this to their children. Ben Shapiro, you've spoken out against the transgenderism so much, right? And the gender affirming care and puberty blockers for children, okay? Why would you circumcise your son, okay? This procedure should be made illegal. This is 100% evil. This is crime against humanity. And for those of you guys who are asking, why is your dad so evil? Why is he like that? Well, there are 2 things. Number 1, okay? So my dad's father, my paternal grandfather, so in the small subdivision that I lived, he was the first police chief of that subdivision when it was first opened up. And obviously, this is a subdivision of 30,000 people. There's no mayor or elected official or anything. Whoever was the police chief was the boss. I was told that he was a complete tyrant. He probably raped half of the women in town, but obviously nobody could do anything. I was also told that he was an intravenous drug user, and he was a raging alcoholic. He beat the shit out of all of his 5 sons almost every single day. So my dad, he was the 5th child. He has 4 older brothers. Every single day after he gets drunk, after he gets back from work, he would just take off his belt. He would just viciously beat all of his 5 sons. Remember, Hitler was also viciously beaten by his father every single day. It was so bad for Hitler that when he reached the age of 13, his older brother actually ran away from home due to the rampant beating. Same thing with Cuba, or Joseph Stalin, the man of steel, right? He was also viciously beaten by his father growing up every single day. And it was reported that things have gotten so bad for Stalin that at one point during his childhood, he was completely urinating blood for over a week. This is why the nuclear family is so important. I believe the vicious beatings that my dad received as a child has left him with a permanent emotional and physical damage. Because I've heard all of the stories. I've heard about all of the legends, right? Everybody knows my dad's family. His dad is a police chief. He's got 5 sons. So every time after my dad was severely beaten up, he would take out his frustration. He would take out his anger on the other kids in town. Sometimes he's told me these stories. He would just pick up a piece of rock or a tree branch or a stick. He would just beat the living shit out of some random kid for absolutely no reason. He would crack their head open and he would just laugh about it. Sometimes he would openly urinate on these people. And if you're asking, did he face any consequences? Well, what are these other kids and their parents? What are they going to do? My dad's father is a police chief. He has 4 older brothers who are all much bigger than him. My dad is not only the youngest, he's also physically the smallest out of his 5 brothers. So, he got the police chief and he's got 4 huge older brothers. So there was a vicious cycle because every single day my dad would get beaten up by my grandfather. And after he gets beat up, he would take it out on some random kid in the city. And why the hell would my mom choose my dad for her second marriage? I have no idea. I have no idea. Maybe back in 1990, 1991, my dad had some special kind of riz. That's one thing I'll never understand about modern women. See, my dad, he has this track record, right, of sleeping around with a bunch of women. Some of them were probably forced, right? They had to because, my dad's daddy is a police chief, so they were forced and subjugated. He was known to be a player. He was also known to just beat up random people for absolutely no reason. But women just, they love these kind of bad guys. And whenever you try to be a nice guy, they put you in the friend zone. That's one thing I will never understand. I'm sorry, I know this video is taking so long, but it's extremely important for me to tell this story. And for the next video of this mini-series, I will tell you guys the severe consequences of single motherhood, how it destroyed everybody in my family. In my family, we have school dropouts, we have people that force other people into suicide, we have a raging alcoholic, intravenous drug user. I had an uncle that was locked in jail for 8 years for drug trafficking. I also had a cousin that was involved in a gang-related fight. He stabbed multiple people with machete, and he was also locked up in prison many times. I had a cousin that ran away from home, that she nearly died on the street. You see, all of these things, they have a single common denominator. That's why I'm so against feminism. That's why I'm so against this rampant divorce in our society, okay? Everything that's happened in my family, just like what happened in Black America, it's all due to single mother homes. And this is a 100% fact. There's no way you can dance around this. Single mother homes will completely destroy a civilization from inside out. The overall 50% divorce rate you see, right? That's from all marriages. This is mostly due to people who get serial divorces and serial marriages. The divorce rate for first marriage in America is roughly 40%. It's still extremely high. But here's the thing. If you get divorced and if you get remarried the second time, okay, the divorce rate for the second marriage is roughly 80%. The divorce rate for a third marriage is roughly 95%. Remember that. 40, 80, 95. Okay, listen, I can't force you guys to stay together. If you're really at that point, you've gone through therapy, you've talked to everybody, you try to do everything to make a marriage work. If you really can't make it work, okay, I'm not against divorce. Maybe sometimes you do have to part ways, but if you do get divorced once in life, you should never ever be allowed to get married again. This is where the laws needs to change, because once you get divorced, it's a vicious cycle. You will fail and fail and fail. Because every single breakup, every single divorce adds some more baggage to both sides. And what happens when you bring so much baggage to both sides of a marriage, that marriage is guaranteed to be doomed. That's why I had over 30 divorces in my family. Because, many of my family members didn't just divorce once. Many of them divorced 2, 3, 4 times. And obviously my mom, she has the most. She has 6 of them. It was extremely difficult for me to post this video, and whether you want to believe the stories, that's all 100% up to you. But I'm being 100% open and honest, and there's no point for me to lie. Why would I post this video and exaggerate the details? These things really all happened to me. This is the severe consequences of breaking up the nuclear family. And if you watched the video all the way till the end, I just want to say thank you to you guys for listening to my story. And I know I'm not alone. I know I'm not the only one out there that's struggling. Right now, in every single developed country, right, the divorce rate is roughly 50%. I know millions of young men worldwide are struggling. They're looking for a family. They're looking for a father figure. They're looking for a friend. They're looking for guidance. And if you know somebody is struggling, please share this video. I just want you guys to know that, you're not alone in this world. And whatever happens, you cannot let this be the end. Look at me. I'm still here. I want you guys to remember this symbol. This is a semicolon. So on the top of a semicolon, that is a period. That period signals when the author wants to end the sentence. However, as the author is writing down the period, halfway through the sentence, the author changed his or her thought. So at the bottom period, the author added a comma. This signifies that the author wants to continue his or her story. Whatever has happened to you in life, don't let your struggles be the end. Just let it be the beginning. Thank you guys.